to figure out, man. They were trying to figure it out. They're like, man,
Elden
Kool-Aid
Campbell
got
is
the
the good.
haircut.
Elden Campbell is a good one.
When I heard it, I wanted to be a little upset at first, and I was just like, you know what? Okay. Uncle Eldon, man, you know what? I remember rooting him on. I remember him being able to, give Shaq about 2 minutes of good work every game. No, it was cool knowing that he was able to go in there and just kind of hold his own.
Yep.
So it was cool, man. I actually kind of appreciated the comp. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, anytime you can get comp to anybody else, you're doing something right.
We'll get this thing a little bit closer. All right. Yeah, so Jeff and I, we just wrapped kind of getting his impressions on media day and training camp.
Mhm.
We did do that drum roll. So we had you covered. Bro.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, but I came away very impressed with the players, the coaches, the things that I was hearing, the direction. We continued to ask all summer, are we kind of underestimating this team and at least what their expectations are? And they came out and said, hey, look, we're ready to compete. And Rod, I just wanted to get your perspective, get your takeaway on media day. And, I guess at least the number one thing, the most important thing that you heard out of media day.
It's that they were gelling, at the chemistry was there and you could see it. Like it wasn't just, we always joke about you just pick up 5 people at Lifetime Fitness and you just start hooping. It wasn't that. It was very much these guys have spent some time together, broken bread, and just been out and spent some time together during the summer. And that chemistry is going to do them well when the season starts. And I think Kade was talking about it, and he said it's when you lose a few games, you can look at the guy across from you and know that he's in the foxhole with you. He's not just out there for self, he's out there for the team. And I think that's something that will manifest itself a little bit better this year, that we'll see more of those guys feeling like they're playing for each other than with each other.
Yeah, and I thought it was key that Kade said that, because you hear a lot of teams come out for media days and state, we're ready to win, we're ready to do this, that, the other. And when you hear your leader state, you know what? We're even thinking about what type of team we're going to be when we're facing adversity. That's the sure mark of a leader. And I love that Kade said, hey, look, I just like to naturally talk. That's just what it is. Like, I'm not trying to put myself out there, whatever, to be something. I'm just trying to help my team in any way I can. I'm just a guy who likes to talk. And you know what? I am going to lead if that's what it is. I loved kind of hearing that out of Kade Cunningham. Going into this second season, Corey Joseph said something about him that just kind of made my antenna go up. And he said, oh, man, Cade's going to be much improved going into year 2. And I'm just like, how? It's like that, when Kanye was like, how much greater can I be? Like, how many more records can my records break? That second half, I continue to state, man, if we get that Cade, which I believe is very possible, that would be awesome. And that's who I think he is. Corey Joseph has me feeling like, with this, put on 15, 20 pounds, skill, high IQ, going to be able to cut down on some turnovers just by being stronger alone. Man, what are we getting out of Cade this year, man? What sense did you get out of it?
Yeah, and that was the thing, and that's the media day thing always is, somebody put on 10 pounds, 20 pounds, or lost 10 pounds or 20 pounds. Yeah, whatever. But in Cade's case, you could kind of see, and at least it's listed on the roster this way, that he's 225 and Sadiq is 220. Now, something doesn't feel right about that, but Cade looked a little bit bigger and stronger, and Dwayne Casey said the same thing, is that he didn't recognize him. And that's kind of a joke, but it's still, when it's going to be, he's able to absorb contact and he's not going to just go in the paint and just get pushed around quite as much. And I forget who said it. Was it Magruder? Somebody said that Cade was posting him up and he was like, hey, wait a minute, he's got a little bit more to him. It wasn't Sadiq. Somebody said he's got more to him than, you can't just push him in the post like you used to be able to. So
I do believe it was Sadiq, because he talked about Cade also. He's like, he's gonna be posting up guards. I mean, he kept going back to, not that he couldn't a little bit last year, but I was like, you know what? I love this team. It's like they know that these guys are taking steps forward. There were some things that these guys went to work on, went to improve on,
Mhm.
but they're still like, you know what? But he was still that guy last year too. like I loved it. And you're right. Every one of these guys talked the main two things: family and competing.
Mhm.
I loved it. Troy set the tone from the start of the press conference by saying, "Hey, look, we're entering the competing stage."
Yep.
I love that he had these things kind of labeled and itemized. Look, and he called out Memphis Grizzlies as getting into the contending stage,
Yep.
leaving the stage that the Pistons are currently in or currently entering. And
Yep.
I just said, you know what, man, this team gonna win? This team's gonna really go out there to try and compete? And everybody from Coach Casey said, "Hey, yeah, we're young, but we're talented. This is the most talent I've had since I've been here." He said,
Mhm.
"Yeah, I know the East is stacked, but we're gonna be competing every single game, every single night." Then all the players, they went and said what the coaches were, and Troy was probably like, "Wait, like Jay and Ivy, man, I'm just trying to make the playoffs. That's it."
Hey, hey, and that's you don't want them to hear that. But and here's the other thing too is people will say on Twitter that Troy must be a boring interview or Troy doesn't do press conferences very well. And it's
Yeah,
not, it's genuinely not about saying it and having a slick tongue when you say stuff. It's
yeah,
really not about that. The proof is in when that dude picks up the phone and makes a call about a trade and he wins the trade more often than not. And it's not, you can come out and you can say some slick stuff and you make bad trades and you do bad things and there's no direction or culture to your franchise.
yeah.
And I think that's that is what's most important about this team and what Troy is doing is not necessarily the roster itself, but just the culture that he's imbuing in this group of guys. And
Mhm.
he's looking for a certain type of guy and he gets a certain type of guy. And the foundation of that culture is there. And now you start adding other pieces with a Bogdanovic. He doesn't have to fit that culture necessarily. He's just got to be good because you've got
Hmm.
guys around him who are going to set the tone.
Yeah, they're
And
gonna drive that culture.
he's a vet, so he knows how to kind of get in where he fits in. And he already said on his first day, "Hey, I'm just here to fit around Kade." So he knows what the deal is, and he's not going to rock the boat on that. So I think that's the key piece of this is that you have the culture set now where even a new guy who comes in who's a vet who could very easily just say, "Hey, I'm here too. I know what I'm doing." But
Yeah.
he's looking to help the young guys and he understands what his role in all of this is too. That's when you built the right culture around this team. So people can say what they want about Trey and his interview skills and what he looks like in a press conference. That man produces results, and that's all that really
Stoic to
matters.
me. I don't understand it. I've been saying this for a while, man, since we've started this and before. He's stoic. It's somebody that looks like he's sure about, what he has a handle on. And that's what you want out of a GM. Somebody who's not just in here relying a lot on other people, but can go, if it takes his own eyes to evaluate the talent, he can do it himself. It's his background, it's who he is.
That's it.
And you know, I think that makes you comfortable with the moves that you're making. You don't have to hype things up. You don't have to be too low on them. You don't have to wonder, is it going to work out? No, hey, guess what? We said that they're going to make decisions. Hey, 4 options got picked up. And it came out and said, we will depend on internal growth.
Right. And that's it. We don't have to go and do foolish stuff out here in free agency, but
Mm-hmm.
we're going to set ourselves up to make a major move if it presents itself and if we think that's something that fits into our plan and what we want to do. So it's never you've never seen Troy
It's to the point, man. Yeah,
um
to the point. I love it.
you've never seen him desperate in a deal. You've never seen him stretch out and say, where it's kind of, I don't like what he did right here. And it's the same thing we always say. Let the smoke clear, let everything settle before
Mhm.
you judge any of his deals. And there's kind of this wait and see on Bogdanovic out here is now you have flexibility to say if you get to the trade deadline and nothing's popping, then you can flip him and get some more assets for I mean, what Kelly's deal and Saban Lee? If you get assets out of that, this dude, man.
Right, we talked about this though, and You called it. You called it. You was like, bro, look, there's gonna be some deals. We thought we have to wait to the trade deadline, and all he did realistically was, I think, increased his asset base.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I do. People are like, that's crazy if he would flip Bojan at the trade deadline. I'm like, look, if he flips him, like we said with Jeremy Grant, if he keeps him, it's going to be good. If he trades him, it's going to be good. That's just the way that it goes.
As good as you felt about Jeremy, how much better do you feel about Jalen Duren? And it's not the players themselves,
Mhm.
it's the plan and moving forward a couple more years. How much better do you feel about them having Jalen Duren and they don't have to rush him along and throw him in the starting lineup right now? They can just bring him along over the next 4 or 5 years. But you turn Jeremy
Mhm.
Grant, rewind, you turned the Christian Wood stuff into that. So
You
how
talk about
good?
the unrestricted free agent that Troy forgot he found a way to trade.
So how do you turn that into Jalen Duren? So and that's the other thing, and this is something I want to go back and do a
Mm.
deeper dive on, is to trace all of the trades all the way back to the beginning of stuff and say, here's the first deal that he made. Here's the Bruce Brown, the Luke Kennard. Here's all of
Mhm.
these. And now 3 years later, here's what these dudes have turned into. So this is the it's not just the trade itself for what it was on the surface at the time. Here's
Mhm.
the second and third level of that trade and who these people have turned into. So Christian Wood, you're making a decision on him. You don't know what he's going to be. Now you're looking at Jalen Duren with that same asset. Who does it? Who
And
does it?
not just Jalen Durant, it's like who we thought we drafted, and then Troy starts talking about him. And Casey starts talking, we're like, wait, we're getting more than what we saw in Memphis. That's why sometimes I say, like, yeah, if he plays the five, he'll be at the five. But I'm like, this guy just seems so versatile. So versatile. It looks like he can be all over the court. I can't wait to see him on the floor because I want to see how he's going to be on both ends. I I lean towards more of what you're saying, though. The patient aspect. Troy has afforded himself that. We have really a stocked up. I'm not going to say stacked, but a stocked front court and a stocked back court.
But
There's
you
competition there.
let me
You know.
let me help you with something too. And the thought process here
Yeah.
is we're going to draft Duren, and he may not be ready. And if he's not, he could play in the G League for a hot second. Fast forward to Summer League. Hey, we got something here. And we brought Bagley back. And we were able to get Nerlens. So we
Mm,
don't necessarily need Kelly, but we're going to hold on to this until we figure out what we have.
yep.
And now that you figured out what you have, you flip Kelly for the weakest position that was on the one kind of dead spot on your roster was a forward.
Mm-hmm.
And you flip these pieces that you kind of no longer need the same way you did before for the weakest spot. You improve the weakest spot on your roster with just pieces that you didn't need. You figured out you didn't need them because
Yep.
he was that good.
Yep.
That's GMing. That's GMing for me.
I can't wait until you do this article. I'm gonna go back and look at some of these tweets and the reactions because I remember some wild reactions to some of these early trades. Some of these, man. Listen, I remember when he well, I remember when they signed Jalen Hand or something like that, and then got rid of him right away. Fans were mad, man. They were like, "What? Oh my gosh, that was young talent." Blah blah blah. I'm just like, "Oh my word, let this man work." I remember even the dead money on the books. People were just getting incensed. Is anybody even thinking about that right now? Pistons are gonna be crazy next offseason, man.
Here's the peak of it. When they had like 5 centers, when it was Dwayne Dedman, and
Yeah,
when they had 5 centers, the jokes were flowing. People got out here in these streets with their jokes. Oh
I
my
remember
God.
that. I
What
remember.
what are they gonna do? Start 5 centers, 5 centers, blah blah blah. And I'm like, bro, let this smoke clear because when it does, it's going to make sense to you. But it's like when you play Monopoly with somebody and
Mhm.
then they buy up all of these properties and then they make 2 trades and then they got like the greens and the oranges and the reds and you're like, what just happened? How did I?
What?
You,
Yeah. What?
what? How did they do that? But that's, you have to prepare yourself and accumulate the assets. But it seems like they had a plan of what they wanted to do,
Yeah.
and not necessarily knowing all of the moves of how to get there, but they
Yeah.
stuck to that plan. And once they got through that, that's where we are now. And it's still not there yet. Let's say they don't make the playoffs and they end up in the lottery again. You're just adding another asset to it.
A cheap one too. A little very inexpensive one. Because goodness gracious. Man.
So that's the only problem that we're going to deal with in the next couple of years, is when you have to start paying Kade and Sadiq, and you really do have to make a decision um, on Killian and
Mm-hmm.
say either this is or this isn't.
Yeah.
And when you got to pay all these young guys, but again, that is kick that can down the road, and we'll think about that when we get there. But until then, let's just accumulate as many assets and young assets as we can, and then just figure out where we are.
Yep, yep, and that's the reason why nobody should be judging Troy on any aspect of his press conferences. If he's boring, if he's this, if he's that, judge this man on his track record. We haven't seen a GM come in and really satiate the foundation of a team this fast with this amount of young talent, man. I just I don't know. I haven't seen this done. Even what Joe Dumars did with the '04 Pistons, he made some shrewd trades that I don't think people expected out of Ben Wallace. What we got when it first went down, we traded I believe one of our best, maybe our best, our top 3 scorer
Mm-hmm.
in Pistons history. To me, not in terms of what he scored, but just he was a bucket in Jerry Stackhouse for Rip
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton. Did people believe that was going to lead to what it led to? So Joe Dumars, he definitely made some shrewd moves that panned out in the long run. But in terms of doing it both through trades, signings, and the draft, Troy
Mm-hmm.
Weaver just seems to be acing all of this. Even the middling players that he signs wind up becoming who he's trading for better players.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I mean, think about it. The Marvin Bagley deal.
Yeah.
The Bojan deal. These were both deals that were facilitated from players that he went out there and signed in Trey Lyles and Josh Jackson. He signed those guys for what? Next to nothing? $5 million a year for Josh Jackson, I believe, 5.5. And Trey Lyles, was that a trade or was that a
Trey Lyles was a free agency.
Free agency after Sekou was let
So,
go.
but it's still, to your point, it is using cap space as an asset to get better guys,
Yep.
and you continue to trade up and to barter up and to get better guys with that cap space. So some people would just say, hey, I got cap space. I'm just going to go get the biggest, shiniest thing that I can, and whoever fits in this number. And Troy is like, no, I'm going to get a couple of guys. And even the Jeremy Grant, where people were saying, this is, you're paying him all of this money and he's a middling player. Well, he's better than what you guys have forecast.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to turn that into another young guy that again, you're resetting the clock on when you have to pay a guy.
Yeah. Hey, does Troy Weaver give stock advice too?
I need to ask him.
Does he know which crypto is about to go up?
I need to ask him.
Like seriously. And you know what? When you're doing your article, I'm gonna look at all of the social media backlash when we traded Jeremy Grant for like nothing.
I remember
you told me, you were like, I
remember.
text you like, bro, what? You were like, guy, let the smoke clear, bro. Let the smoke clear.
I remember that day because I'm like, you know what? Yeah, watch that pick turn into something. Just watch.
Mhm.
Just watch that pick. 2025, something doesn't smell right. And that's always the key with a Troy trade. When something doesn't smell right, like he lost,
It's like, get ready.
If you feel like he lost or he did something stupid, it's something else coming. It's always something else coming. Like Bruce Brown, like, all right, it's something else. It's a bigger, but he said that too, is that the tougher part for him was coming in after the Stefanski era and getting the books cleaned up. Stefanski kind of cleaned up the books a little bit, but
Yeah.
you needed better talent to go along with that. And that's why he just said, we got to clean the decks out. We got to trade Kennard. I know he's a favorite, but we just got to get assets and really get this down to where we need to go so we can start moving forward.
And did he ever? Did he ever, man? Like, I mean, Luke Kennard, Bruce Brown, those guys were involved in the Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart deals, I believe. I know that some of those, like the Bruce Brown one, was one that was just kind of included, I believe, in the Isaiah Stewart deal in the end. Yep.
I believe that's right.
Yep. And I remember how fans were kind of going at the time because Luke Kennard was definitely a fan favorite, and a lot of people were wondering, why did we just draft another potentially Luke Kennard and Sadiq Bey? I don't think anybody's saying that today. Like, Troy, you talking about this eye for talent, and it's what made Media Day so fun, is because you saw a bunch of Troy's guys up there sounding like Troy. That was I think the most fun thing about it, when I was just kind of waiting to hear what are these guys going to talk about today. Troy set the tone, and everybody else came behind him saying, yeah, it's a family atmosphere. A couple of the guys stated that, especially Notice Noel, that I kind of knew where this thing was headed, where they were trying to go because of his prior relationship with Troy Weaver. And a couple of these guys talked about the fact that Troy and Casey, that they're setting this atmosphere from the top, that we're a family, we're a brotherhood. You know, that is very, very reassuring. And then beyond that, these guys were stating that they're ready to compete, just like Troy was stating. They're ready to win. They're ready to go out here and look, no, they don't want to be an easy circle on anybody's calendar this year. And I love that when he said we're ready to compete every night. When Troy Weaver said that, it just kind of, I was like, it's that type of a press conference. It's that type of a media day. You want to hear the hype. You know, you want to hear that type of stuff. You want to hear this team is really about it. But Rod, I've been telling you all summer, I felt like there might have been something we're missing with the squad, starting with Kade Cunningham, and then you look at everything else that Troy Weaver has done. We have to update expectations with Bojan. Like, I don't know, man. Jeff and I, we said, we think the play-in. I agree with Troy and Casey that they will be clawing for that play-in with Orlando. I'm not going to be surprised if they get it. I will be slightly disappointed if they don't. I will be, consoled with a shiny new lottery pick, and Troy will probably work something out where he gets another one. I'll be consoled very, very quickly. But I do believe this team's going to be in it all season.
But wait, you still got to, for them to make the play-in, they have to be better than 5 teams. You still got to tell me 5 teams that they're going to be better than in the East.
Woo! Put that in the comments, people. Put that in the comments.
I can argue Orlando, Indiana, and that's where it starts to get a little tough.
Hold on, bro. Let me get there. Oh my gosh, that's a great
Orlando,
one, Rod.
Indiana. You're gonna have to say somebody like Washington, Charlotte, and the Knicks. Or Atlanta. Because it's going to be tough out here in these streets, in these East streets. You have to say.
It's different looking at it, man. It's different just looking at the standings.
You have to give me 5 for them to finish in 10th place and squeeze into the play-in. You got to give me 5 teams that they will finish ahead of.
Oh, they would have had to finish ahead of Charlotte last year. That's a tall order.
It's you want to say so many things, and barring some type of catastrophic injury, it's hard to pick 5 teams and say they will win more games and be better than these 5 teams.
It's tough. It is tough. And Dwayne Casey, he talked about that too. His quote, "This is the toughest I've seen the East in a long time from top to bottom." He said it's a big time conference right now. But he also removed their excuses. He said being young is not an excuse.
Not an excuse.
We're ready to take that next step. We are ready to make LCA a very special place. And I like the way that coach is starting to really get his guys riled up. Because I believe that this team should at least be competing. If they miss the play-in but they're competing, I'm fine with that. Personally, I'm fine with that. I think it would be a little bit more than any of us expected. Really, I think a lot of us say, they should be a little bit more competitive. But I believe Kade Cunningham, Jade and Ivy, these guys sound like they're out on a mission. The rest of the team, even Killian, I'm confident, I'm aggressive. He continued to state that. But when he said, and he made mention to, you know what, I know my first and second years weren't ideal. That I was like, okay. You know what I mean? It's a little bit different when a person, these guys, I heard like self-accountability, self-reflection. Like now I was working on this specific thing that, I know my confidence. Like to hear Killian state, I'm confident. I was just like, he's getting it. His head, man, like he's getting it. That look, them games when he's dunking on Sacramento, flexing on Trae Young in those games against the Hawks. I saw that look from Killian Hayes in the press conference yesterday. And I told Jeff when he told me, when he, I forget who asked, but when he stated, you know what, firstly, I'm trying to be a defensive leader. I was like, yeah, oh, wait, no. Let's keep getting these quotes out, man. Let's keep getting these quotes out because it's like he's talking different, man. He's talking different. The swag seems to be a little bit different. The drive seems to be different. And I told Jeff, I was like, yo, he didn't come out here and first say he wants to be a playmaker. He said he wants to be a defensive leader. And Jeff said, wait. Killian wants to be a leader? I was like, yo, that's the growth. That's the maturation. And obviously, we want to see these guys on the court. Yep. But right now, you want to at least know, because we were like, yo, Andre Drummond, are you working on what you should be working on? But Killian is letting us know, listen, guys, my biggest issues out here, I'm going to address them right in front of you. Confidence, my aggression, my defense.
And the three-point shot looks different. So how much can you kind of pull from that? We'll find out. And when I tell you this season is sneaking up, these cats play next week.
One more time for the people in the back.
Tuesday in New York. Tuesday. Man, on TNT.
Are you talking about Troy's best friends?
Man, hey, with Pistons East, we're bringing half of the squad back to them on the reunion tour.
Oh man. You know what? I love Nerlens Noel, man. I want to see him get the chance to play. I know he's going to start off a little bit limited, but I do want to see him play. I love the determination he has. I love the fact that he said, y'all know I want to wear number 3. But you know why I can't? You know why I can't wear it? But the same grit that guy brought, I'm trying to bring that back to the city. I'm like, get this man in the Pistons jersey. Get him on the court right now. Like, just ASAP. I'm trying to see Nerlens try to wind back the clock just a little bit, man.
But so people are going to be – somebody said on Twitter, of course, that all of the Knicks are the ones that are hurt to start training camp. Thibodeau did it to us again. Tibbs kills his players. I'm like, okay, so you got 3 guys who are not ready to start training camp, and you're still good. You still are good. None of them are guys that you said, this whole house of cards is built on Nerlens being our defensive stopper, or Alec Burks has to be the starting 2, or this thing isn't going to work. Okay, those 3 cats, you want to work them into what you're doing, but it doesn't hurt anything in the preseason or any of your development or your overall plan that you don't have Noel, you don't have Burks. It doesn't make a difference. That's the depth that you have now, that if you start to look at, okay, 4 teams that we can be better than, I mean, maybe. Man,
let me look back at that East. That was, oh my goodness, that was a good question there. That was a good.
You have to find 5 teams that they will finish ahead of.
Sheesh, man, because I mean, even Cleveland was what, 44-38, and they're in 9th.
44 wins gets you 9th,
and they got better.
That's the thing. Go ahead.
Is Chicago sustainable? Year older for some of their stars. Zach LaVine, is he going to be dependable? That's probably the only of the actual top 6 last year. That's the team that I could see having potentially maybe some waivers. I don't know. I mean, they were solid. I'm not going to ever count out those guys and what they were doing, DeRozan and Levine and others, with Patrick Williams. Goodness, I know Troy still wishes he had him too. But I don't know, man. This is gonna be tough.
You,
Brooklyn
you
had
can't
44 wins.
really say Brooklyn. So here's what you'll look at too. Is even with 9 and 10, Atlanta and Charlotte was 43 wins. Brooklyn and the Cavs were 44. So that's a 4-team spread, and it's only one win between them. So that means there's some variation. There's some margin of error within that.
Yeah.
That I mean,
Orlando's
you could be better than
the
Knicks. Yeah, you could be better than the Knicks. You can be better than the Wiz. Indiana and Orlando, I think, are the two that you can kind of point to, but you still need 3 more, and that's the hard part. Yeah. You're going to need a good start to the season because the second half is a grinder.
Yep. I saw their strength of schedule. It at least based on right now, it does kind of gradually go up. Second half of the season, oh, that boy, it kind of shoots up. I was looking at it, I was like, woo. Jeff and I think we talked about this maybe about a month and a half ago when it kind of came out, and yeah, they're going to have to be prepared. Whatever Kade was second half of the season last year, we're going to definitely need that second half of this season. So I'm hoping that they can hit the ground running, and it's going to be tough. I believe if Kade Cunningham comes out in year 2 and there's no setbacks injury wise to the team or to himself, the high IQ guys that Troy Weaver has on his team and what Kade has already exhibited gives them an opportunity, and their family-like atmosphere. Everyone playing for each other, everybody wanting to be in their spots. It gives them an opportunity to be able to come out and play the game the right way right away. So if they are talented and they're coming out and they're getting to their sets, they're trying to get after it on defense, I do believe we're going to see that squad that we saw they didn't have Bojan or Ivy last year. I think we're going to see that same squad post All-Star break that was going out and competing every night and going toe-to-toe with guys like Luka, going toe-to-toe with guys like KD. I think we're going to see this team and Kade Cunningham come out this year to start the season and do that every night. It was, comparatively to last year, the start to last season was one in which it seemed like fans kind of got disheartened. People started questioning, was Kade the right pick? People started wondering what's up with Sadiq, what's up with these people's shots and things of that nature. This person is already injured. This year, I don't believe we see any of that. I'm not saying that they're going to come out here and start 6-1 like the Pistons before they traded Chauncey for Allen Iverson. But
we shall not speak of that. That is the time of which we will not speak.
Yeah, but I do believe this is going to be a much more competitive team to start the season this year, and I think it rests heavily on those first 3 players that Troy brought in his first year, and Killian, Sadiq, and Isaiah Stewart, and then you add to that Kade Cunningham, who showed extreme basketball IQ. I love the pep and the desire, the energy of Jaden Ivey. I'm not going to put any limits on him. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say, hey, buddy, you should calm down all of that rhetoric and that talk. I'm not going to do that, man. I love it, but I'm also not going to put the expectation that he should be where third-year Sadiq and Killian and where Kade, who came in like a second-year player into this league already, should be. I'm hoping he's learning from those guys as it relates to how they carry themselves and as it relates to the early part of the season, those growing pains. I'm hoping he's kind of riding with those ups and those downs with those guys. And I know Kade mentioned something about that with his teammates, with our guys. I wish I had the exact quote, man. I had it here earlier. He talked about that. As long as, you're looking to the right, you look to the left, these are the guys that you're going to get through with. And that's what I'm grateful for. You can go and you can load up on a couple lottery picks during a time where you're also talking about wanting to be competitive, because your guys at the top, though young, are very mature and high IQ. They're leaders already. Can you question Sadiq Bey's work ethic?
Nope.
Can you question Isaiah Stewart's work ethic?
Nope.
Can you question Killian Hayes' work ethic? We said don't let him go to France because we thought he wasn't going to hoop. This man was hooping all over the place. Florida, France, Detroit, everywhere.
Didn't matter.
Yeah, all over. Like, you can't question any of these guys' work ethic, man. None of them. So As a young team, I'm glad that Casey kind of took away that excuse from them. Hey, you're young, but go out here. I know the East is tough, but go out here and play hard every single night. Let me see here. Was there anything else, man? Media day wise, any other important takeaway?
Um, no, I think it was just everybody felt comfortable. It didn't feel like there was this air of uh high expectation or this is a make or break year. And I thought that might be something that was hanging over the whole thing, was that we have expectation. And I think they do. They have anticipation, but not expectation to say,
Mm.
we want to do this, we want to make the playoffs, or we want to get into the whatever, but that's not an expectation. That was Troy saying, pump the brakes on saying this is the year,
Mhm.
because you have to compete before you contend, and we're learning how to
Exactly.
compete. So he set the framework to say, here's what our year is about. If we can turn around at the end of this and say we competed against all of the and we made 11th or 12th or whatever the case is, then check, we did what we set out to do. We're not going to sit here and say we're going to make the playoffs this year. If we do, cool.
Yeah.
But here's the level where we're trying to get to, and let's just live with that. And so I like that Troy is doing that and not letting fan expectation or
Yeah.
anybody else's expectation
Or
sit on top of the
player
players.
zeal or anything. Yeah.
Right. And let somebody get a little slick tongue with it and say we're making the playoffs this year, and then that turns into a thing. It's
Yeah.
very much, here's what we're trying to do,
Mhm.
and we know the East is tough. And as you said, Casey said, but that's no excuse. We're
Yeah.
gonna go out here and we're gonna try our hardest. And I think
Yep.
that framing helps when you don't have a lot of veterans. When this isn't a veteran-led squad, you got to put a cap on these young guys and say, hey, we're not getting out here saying silly stuff. We're just going to go out here and work really hard. And that's
Yep.
what it felt like with all of these guys, is that everybody went out and worked hard in the off season, and they're ready to get it going.
Yep. And you know, with Troy going out there and doing that, I think from the organization, it sets the organizational expectation. And I like the word, I like the way that you phrased it, but knowing his team, this team has been a one that doesn't necessarily, I don't know what you call it, but when you kind of set a cap on there, these guys are like, what? You trying to put this on me? Like I can't
Mhm.
reach it? That's the vibe I get from these guys. Not that they're going to go and they're going to be world beaters this year. I'm not going to put against them making the plan this year. I believe that they're very much going to be in play for it. I believe they fall just short, just short.
Mhm.
But I'm not going to be surprised at all if they make the play in tournament. They should be in play for it. It shouldn't be a thing where where we're like, oh, they landed 4 games out, good season. No, they should be in play for it. And they just, as we coming down to the end of the season, at the very least, you see if they wind up kind of losing it 3-4 games at the end of the season, that it was just because those other teams were better. They just
Yeah.
got beat. We know the second half of the season is going to be a grind for this team. Um, how did you get a chance to see that West Coast trip?
Oh,
With the
it's
team this year?
bananas. It's
Yeah,
bananas. I
yeah.
told Mike, man, that's
That's on you this year, bro.
yeah, that's one I am glad I'm not going on,
Woo.
because is it 2 back-to-backs or 3? It's 2.
Mhm.
The LA games are back-to-back on a Thursday and Friday night. And then the Sacramento was a 3 and 4. So they usually give you a couple of days break in between,
Mhm.
especially if you're going from city to city like that out west. There's no couple of days break. And then Denver and Utah is back-to-back. So everybody knows the elevation issues in Denver and Utah. And Utah is actually higher than Denver is. But to make Denver, Utah back-to-back is just silly. That's just silly scheduling. So it's 2 back-to-backs in that 6-game
Oof.
schedule. And they're really 3, or each set of 3 games is a 3 and 4. That's whatever. 3
Yeah, I'm
games.
just sitting here just like, man, oh man, oh man. Yeah, they have a lot more things facing them or against them than just, if they can be talented enough. There's the ebbs and flows of a basketball season. there's a rookie wall that the rookies will hit. Even Kade Cunningham said, no, I was ready to play last year, but coming into this season, knowing what to expect, I was able to better prepare my mind and my body. He talked about, man, I didn't know what to expect with the travel. He mentioned that. He's like, I didn't know
Yep.
what to expect with these
Yep.
road trips and all of that. But this year I know. And that's important. That's key to know, kind of, because I, I don't think there's any way that a vet, they can help to prepare you as much as they can, but there's no way you can really get prepared for something like that unless you go through it.
Yeah.
Now you
So
know how much harder you have to push.
yeah, that road trip is 2-4. You beat Sacramento, and then you beat Utah, because Utah is not going to try to beat you. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's going to be tough to beat Phoenix on the back end on the last game of a road trip like that. You got Phoenix. I mean, that's a scheduling nightmare. And then the two LA teams back to back is the worst part of that.
Yeah. That's gonna be a character developing trip there.
Yeah, but again, if you can go you go 2-4 in that, I think you did about as well as you can do.
Yep. One other thing I wanted to highlight here from Media Day, and you talked about the family atmosphere. It's one thing when it's lip service, but what about when you get a player who sits down and, like Jalen Duren, and they're asking questions like, "Hey, what position, what this, what that," and he says, "Oh, yeah, me and coach talked, but it ain't been about basketball. This is about family. He called to check up on us." That was like, I was just like, "Yo, man, this is awesome type of stuff here, man." You start to really understand the conceptions of why these guys are in the positions they're in. So you guys aren't really talking, except for, hey, these are a few things they said I can kind of work on, but other than that, do coach and I talk? Yeah, it's about family. But did that stop any of these guys from personally working on their games, though?
No, and it's a lot better than DeAndre Ayton saying that he and coach haven't talked at all. We haven't talked since the playoffs last year. What?
Well,
how's that even possible? No,
he's on a new deal, right? Yeah. How are you? Excited.
I'm all right. I'm all right. No, that's how Casey is, though, man. And I don't think he gets enough credit for, when this is all said and done, it's going to seem like he left Toronto and was coach of the year and then just kind of went away and just disappeared with the Pistons. And when they are a contending team and doing really well, I hope he's still around for it. But if he's not, he won't get the credit for building this up the way that he did. And I hope it's not a damper on how his career is viewed, because it really is for him. You give him that next roster that he had in Toronto with Kawhi, and move LeBron out of there, and I think he wins the championship. That seems very clear to me.
I do too.
So I just hope he's viewed, when his career is done, the way that it should be viewed, that he really was the architect of that Toronto franchise and the success that they had, not just the championship, but just over the course of those years. That was a squad, man. That Toronto had a squad. And they built all those guys up. And so the same way that this is being built up, and we're going to look at Kade and these guys in a few more years, is the way that we should look at the way Toronto built that.
I love that. I love that. We have not just Troy Weaver in the front office, who's been involved with putting together some really good dynamic young teams, but Coach Casey has been involved with it as well. That's the battery that we have here between our GM and our coach, leading these young guys. And it's an interesting thing, even when we talk about Jalen Duren potentially having to go down to the G League and everything, I'm fully comfortable with whatever plan this staff has in place for him. Even the G League, when I got to go out to the open tryouts and talk to DJ Baker, coach of the Motor City Cruise, the one thing I wanted to remark on, and it was after our pod when we talked about how well those G League guys were in that game that Hami, during that stretch that Hami was kind of getting busy. And it was something that at the beginning of last season, I got to interview him at Motor City Cruise Media Day and asked DJ Baker, what are the challenges you believe you're going to face? Effectively having some of these franchise type guys, potentially these rookies down in the G League, or having some of the guys that have to just be ready, like a Luka Garza. And he talked about it, and he said, he doesn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
He's just going to continue to listen because he said Troy and Coach Casey and the guy Rob Murphy and these guys know what they want out of the organization. They want us to be connected, and he knew at least the game plan.
Mhm.
And not only did he make sure those guys were ready to play when they came up to the Pistons, but his squad itself continued to win games no matter who was in and out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And I got to ask him this year, man, it's potential. You're gonna have a big Jalen Duren down here. And his face was just so much more like, yeah, I might. You know what I mean? It was just it was so different than last year. Like, yeah, we're doing things over here. Troy was over in the corner. Rob Murphy was on the other side of the gym. DJ Baker, Mike Curtis, and I, we were in the middle of center court interviewing him. And it was just like, yeah. DJ Baker got that Troy in him right now.
If you let Jalen Duren near a Cruise game and near some G League centers, it's bad enough.
Let's go.
It's bad enough they're going to have Braxton Key as a two-way guy, tearing them. Braxton Key was getting busy in the second half last year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, okay, whatever, man. The Crews are just going to be nasty. I wanted to button up one other point that you made about having the battery of Dwayne Casey as the coach and Troy Weaver as the general manager.
Mm-hmm.
There are very few instances where you see a black head coach and a black GM.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when they do have opportunities, it is with really bad teams, bad teams, where it's just, well, okay, we know the rotation of coaches that we go through in the league. And for black head coaches, if you're an assistant and you finally get a chance, it's with a bad team. Or, I mean, the Darvin Ham and the Lakers is somewhat of an anomaly, but Monty Williams with Phoenix was when they were bad. So to see Dwayne and Troy succeed and really start turning this around is the other feel-good part of this as black coaches and seeing and black GMs. There aren't a lot of opportunities out there, but when it is something and when it is turned around, it's not just they jumped in with a good team and had some success with a team that was already ready-made.
Man.
This is the original Kool-Aid thing where it is, here's water, here's your pack of Kool-Aid, here's some sugar. We got to stir this thing up and make it from the very beginning. Yeah. That's probably the most fulfilling part of this, is that Troy had the recipe when he came in and really made this into something. That's the part that will be most fulfilling when it's all said and done, is that he had the plan, he executed the plan, he kept his coach because they had a good bond with each other, and he knew that was the right guy to make this happen.
That is key. That is true. Because he wasn't the one that brought in Casey. That means that the connection that these guys have and the page that they're on, and just the how they're choosing to move this organization forward, they have to be completely in lockstep. I don't know how much of each other they knew of before, but now it just seems like these guys are just like one and the same as it relates to what they're doing to move forward. You hear their comments are the same, the direction is the same, and I love that they acquiesce to each other where they're supposed to, or where you would generally maybe I've heard GMs overstep.
Yep.
Troy was like, nah, in the lineups, nah, this player, that player, G League. Talk to Coach Casey about that.
Talk to that man over there. But see, and in the coaching thing, the way Troy is with this roster, if he didn't like Dwayne and he didn't think Dwayne was the right fit, he'd come in like Jesus and just start flipping up tables and this ain't it. This ain't the coaching staff I want. Get all this out of here. But he saw that and he knew that was the right guy from the very beginning. And people for the last, I don't know how many years, you think Dwayne is on the hot seat. You think Dwayne is going to get fired. Bro, no, it's not even close. Dwayne is here until he doesn't want to be here. There's no hot seat, there's no Tom Gorris, there's no Troy Weaver plotting behind the scenes to get rid of Dwayne. They just gave him an extension. They want him to be here as long as he wants to be here, and he wants to be here. If he was leaving, Dwayne would have left after that Blake and Andre year, and that he wouldn't have stayed through the rebuild if he didn't want to be here. A complete teardown. If he didn't want to be
trading the players, think, bro, I don't even mean to interject, but a complete teardown to the point that okay, you're getting rid of Blake, you're getting rid of wait, you're getting rid of Luke and Bruce Brown too. Like a complete teardown, man. Like we just drafted them.
Reset this whole thing, boom. And if he didn't want to be here, or if he was in any kind of trouble, they would have reset this thing for him and let him go then. So there's no whisper and no hint of Dwayne Casey going anywhere. So people, you can tweet me and ask me again. I'm gonna tell you the same thing. The answer hasn't changed. That man is here until he doesn't want to be here.
Hey, it's like that Nick Saban meme, man, when he's like, look, it's not gonna happen, so quit asking. You know what I mean? It's just like, bro, it just is what it is, man. It is what it is. And I wish people would understand that what the Pistons are trying to build is something of culture. When Larry Brown came in to coach this team, I wouldn't reckon to say that he was the best X's and O's coach out there. It was something that when you know the temperament and the makeup of your team, and when you know your staff, your full staff, your scouts, your film, your this, your that, your development staff, your assistant coaches, and you have leaders. I'm talking about actual coaches on the floor like Kade, a la back then, Chauncey Billups and others. You need a guy like a Larry Brown who can then come in and make sure that culture is right. Playing the right way. It wasn't like what these guys had to go and learn fundamentals now? No. It was a culture that that was playing the right way, and we saw it bleed through in everything that they did. They were a brotherhood. They were scrappy on defense, and they shared the ball on offense so much so that they would say, "Hey guys, for the next 5 minutes, every play down the court, we're literally stopping to play half court Rip Hamilton ball. It's literally Rip Hamilton pinball. Go." And it would just sit there knowing.
Do something. Stop it. No, you can't. Okay, cool.
And it's like, from that vibe, I think people have to understand the NBA has changed even from that time. It's changed, man. You got the way that you can utilize the G League, the way that you can actually almost have a program now. This is almost like college more so than ever. This is, to me, the most like college basketball, the way you can build your program, have your players kind of in your G League getting ready. The whole campus is together. The way that the Pistons are doing this thing, they seem to always be at the cutting edge of things, whether it be, rest in peace, Davidson with what Bill Davidson, the old owner who revolutionized travel with Round Ball One for his team, and the Palace of Auburn Hills and such, to what we see this team doing right now to integrate their G League team and to have a family-like atmosphere. We hear people talk about it. It's not something that you see a lot of. I think another team that really employed these types of tactics very, very well, it's not necessarily OKC to me. They had a good foundation, but the family aspect of it didn't necessarily hold all those stars together. But San Antonio Spurs, in terms of a program, that's a team that for years we've stated that's a program. I believe Miami Heat have tried to run things a certain way, and it allows them to just be a team that causes some ruckus every year, even when you don't expect it. And I believe that the Pistons are one of those squads that are now coming into what you would consider to be one of those types of programs. They have the right foundation, the right players, and they have the right coach who all the players are stating it. And he's running this thing like a family. I love what Coach Casey's doing. Oh, Coach Casey's checking in on me. He's making sure we're doing what we got to do. And have y'all talked basketball? Well, I would have thought that y'all were sitting here talking basketball with how hard I was seeing you go. There must be something that this guy is spurring in his players that's making these guys be different than the other guys I saw in years past. I don't want to disrespect other people, but I didn't see some of these other rookies working out like this. I saw them playing pro-ams, but I didn't see them actually getting in and working out and doing all of the drills, stretching their games, showing more than we even saw possible, especially with Jalen Duren. I know we got to wait till these guys put it on the floor, but I think it's silly to not zoom out, look at what the Pistons are doing, and realize Dwayne Casey is a big part of the development of guys. Like, let's not even talk about Duren and Ivy. He's been huge in Cade's development. If you don't believe it, ask Kade. He's not just going to conjecture. He said it coming into the league. I talked to other stars and other players that played for Casey. He mentioned Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan early on and stated, No, man, he's worked with these star guards. He's turned
Yep.
people into all-stars. He's helped them. He said, these guys told me about him. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like Casey said, oh, go ask my record from these guys. Cade said this. He went out and looked for it. And you hear this report from other players around the league. Kyle Lowry has nothing but great things to say about Dwayne Casey. Like, so it's like guys, I asked this question. Rod, what if Andre Drummond had Coach Casey? Instead, you know who had Coach Casey? Jonas Valanciunas to a degree for some time. What if Drummond had that early on? That's what I'm saying. So fans, zoom out.
Every once in a while, you got to zoom out.
Zoom out. That's something you've helped me learn.
Yeah, it's not just what you see in front of your face, because it's a lot of little pieces. But as you said, when you step back and you look at the big picture of things, it makes you see things a whole lot clearer. And I think we'll start to see what this looks like. What is it, Tuesday? They play the Knicks on Tuesday, man. That's not even a week. That's less than a week.
I cannot wait, man. I can't wait. Sheesh.
On national TV.
Ooh.
On TNT.
Them boys about to be playing hard in a preseason game.
hey, man. Hey, so when you start talking about minutes and everything else, these boys are going to go hard on the first preseason game. Hey.
You heard them talking about Summer League, right? If they went that hard on Summer League, Isaiah, I'm coming out here to see if I can be a leader. It's Summer League. I'm coming out here to be a leader. Kelly, I'm coming out here to work with Ivy. No, I wanted to dominate. This is what these guys are saying about Summer League, and the season's about to get rolling. Like you saying Tuesday, I'm just sitting here like, wow. You keep seeing the date in your phone, then you actually look at it on the calendar, and you're like, oh my goodness, that's
in October. Oh, that's next week.
Yeah, bro, you just got me. I'm just sitting there like, oh man, it's time to start sending in these emails. Hey guys, can we get in at the game?
Last thing.
Yes, sir.
Remember when people were so hung up on Keegan Murray?
Yeah.
Around the draft.
Oh my goodness. I remember,
and you don't have Keegan Murray, but you were looking for a guy who could play both forward spots like Keegan was supposed to. Bogey. You got a vet guy. He might not be able to do the same thing, but you got a 40% three-point shooter who's a vet, who's on an expiring contract. So Troy just went out and said,
he went out there and got Jabari Bogdanovic.
we might not have gotten what people thought we wanted in the draft, and we knew roster-wise that was what we needed. But now we just went out and got sort of the same thing. A 40% three-point shooter.
You're right, man. We were looking at some of these players, Keegan Murray type, Jabari Smith type, Jeremy Grant's gone. I don't care. Hey, Bojan, what's up? You know what I mean? It's just like, goodness gracious. It changes the whole way that I even approach moves and the way that we do this show and things like that, the way that we cover it, because it's just like, okay, the job here with Troy Weaver and the Pistons isn't about overreacting or underreacting to anything. It's about just keep sailing down the stream. You're going to see what you're going to see. It's like, it's going to work itself out. Let the smoke clear. TM Rodbeard.
Right, but just people were so hung up on Keegan Murray, and that's who the Pistons need to get. And you go and you fill the role with somebody else, with an expiring guy who's a vet, and you needed vet. So Troy kind of sees the same stuff that we see, but he has a completely different way of dealing with it that is out the box. It's reactive to the environment and what's out there, instead of just going by popular opinion to say, here's what people think I should do. So I'm going to trade up one spot and get Keegan Murray because that's what people think. No, I'm going to end up with Bojan and Ivy. So would you rather?
We had our eye on him for a minute, so he kind of already knew.
So would you rather have Keegan and whatever other player they ended up with in free agency, or Ivy and Bojan?
Get out of here.
So Troy wins again. And people are not going to talk about that. They will not talk about that whatsoever.
Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Bojan Bogdanovic this summer. Am I missing anybody?
All of the
the Knicks
all
trio.
the New York Cats.
All the New York Cats. What? Troy's wild. This is wild. I'm about to review this offseason now.
And did he kill cap space to do it?
No, he even gave us more cap space for next season.
Did he go out and spend it all and just put it all on black on the table and say, hey, we're going to get Miles Bridges? Remember that?
And DeAndre Ayton. We were supposed to get both of them. We were supposed to go out there and get both of them.
Man, Troy knows, man. Troy knows.
Man.
Troy, that's why you don't question anything that dude does.
Nope.
Until you step back
and you look at you just take notes.
And until you just look at all the other stuff. And Kemba's still on this team too. There might still be another deal where he can work something out and get an asset for that.
It's sounding good. Brother Rod, man, I appreciate the time. This has been honestly some of the most fun conversation. Pistons season is in the air. Basketball is right around the corner, man.
Next week.
Tune in to the Pistons next week. I cannot wait. I can't wait to we mess with Mike Curtis too, man. But no, you talking about professional, Rod. Man, your boy handles himself, man. He handles himself well. I was like, hey, look at Mike go. Like, he prepared and just the look and everything. And the number one thing that I loved, I remember I texted you later, like, yo, he's a really cool dude.
Mm-hmm.
Very personable and very respectful of everybody. Even just walking past, people, someone walks past him, he's, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm like, good dude, Mike. Good dude.
Yeah, man. He's just a piece of clay to be molded, and he's going to be. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's just going to be really good. Once he gets comfortable and gets to know people, this is kind of he's been writing and not knowing the individuals and the people, but once he gets to know people, yeah, he's going to be much, much better.
That's awesome. Thank you, brother. Today, hey, you know what? I'm still going to do that drum roll. Let's get it. Hey, yo, shout out to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard. Brother, thank you. I can't wait. Next time we're talking on this platform, it's going to be after we've seen some Pistons basketball.
There you go. We'll have some stuff.
Can't wait. Till next time, you guys. Peace out.
Peace.